Hello, the internet. My name's Laura, and this is The Law of the Prince Charming, Chapter 19.1. The Prince of Redstone. The doors to the throne room swing open, and Tabitha walks in wearing a white tunic, but one that doesn't hide her curves, and her hair hangs loose about her shoulders. Wildrose and the huntsman walk on either side of her. Wildrose is wearing a soft rose tunic trimmed in gold, and the huntsman's tunic is black, covered by a studded leather vest. Tabitha takes strength from their presence. Everyone in the ballroom stops their conversations and turns on the herald's announcement. Tabitha keeps her eyes forward on her parents, who are sitting on their thrones at the end of the hall. The crowd parts around her as they whisper to each other. Is that the prince? Why is his hair so long? Who are those men with him? Tabitha is now close enough to see the expressions on the faces of the king and queen. The king's eyes are wide, but when Tabitha looks at the queen, she sees an expression she has never seen before. Excitement. Tabitha reaches the end of the aisle and bows. Welcome home, the king starts. Have you completed your quest? The queen's voice is sharp. Do you return with the sword? Tabitha feels herself shrink at that tone. She's convinced herself that she can stand up to her mother, to say all the things she needs to say. Now she feels all the old insecurity creeping back. Tabitha feels a hand in the small of her back. She glances over at Wildrose beside her. He is Tabitha's anchor. That sword was needed elsewhere, but I have completed a different quest, Tabitha replies. She opens the pouch she's holding and pulls out the dragon scale. It glows in the palm of her hand. A dragon's remnant. The queen's eyes widen. She's well aware of the enormity of the task. A dragon! Well done, my son. But I'm not your son. Tabitha's tunic shifts into a white dress that looks like it was made of hundreds of feathers. She curtsies, a move she had practiced endlessly. It flows gracefully. The crowd erupts into chatter. You were supposed to, the queen hesitates. Complete a quest as a Prince Charming, so I would disappear into that law? Tabitha asks. The queen's eyes narrow. Tabitha feels the reflexive wince, but the movement of her dress and the feel of the cloth pulls her from that habitual response. I know it all. How you stole the Excalibur to leech off its magic, and used that to shift my laws so the Snow White tale would not play out. Then you sent me on a quest as a prince, to complete a tale and solidify those laws. You purposely tried to kill who I am. The queen's piercing gaze goes to Wildrose and Huntsman. You're storytellers, aren't you? You're supposed to support the tales, not break them. What about me wasn't good enough? All the fury Tabitha had spent so many years quelling threatens to overtake her. I spent my whole life trying to be good enough for you, thinking that something about me was broken because I wasn't who you wanted me to be. I did all of this for you, the queen says. As a Snow White, you would have suffered. You would have been relegated to being saved by a prince. It never had anything to do with me. You just wanted to save yourself. All I ever wanted was for you to be proud of me, and now I see that's impossible. You fell into the role of the evil queen a long time ago. You just can't see it. That's not true. I love you, the queen says with a hellhound's fury. I did all of this for you. What's my name? Tabitha asks quietly. Her voice sounds like knives, something she had learned from her mother and is only too happy to use against her now. Your name is Thomas, the queen frowns. That isn't my name. But how did you... You don't know anything about me. All you know is the role you forced me to play. Fine, then if you're going to be a princess, you can no longer be the heir. You'll have to marry. This isn't about being male or female. It's about being me. I'm capable no matter what arbitrary qualities you think I should display. I'm more than the roles you use to define me. A princess cannot rule a kingdom alone, but I can, Tabitha responds. I have played so many roles since leaving here, and none of them define who I really am, so how could you possibly know what I can and cannot do? Everyone plays a role, roles pushed into them by others and by themselves. You're just too young to understand. I understand perfectly, Tabitha shakes her head. My name is Tabitha, but you may not call me that. You're my daughter. You may be married to my father, but your daughter is not a role I will ever play again, Tabitha says. I'm an heir to the kingdom of Redstone. I've proved myself that, no matter my gender. The queen's face is flushed almost as deep a red as her dress. But Tabitha ignores that now and walks up to her father. She takes the dragon remnant and puts it into his hand. I'll return when I'm needed. He reaches up to touch her cheek, a motion he is clearly unpracticed in. I'm sorry. Tabitha shakes her head. She leans forward and kisses her father on the cheek. Then she walks back down and holds out her hand to Wildrose. He intertwines his fingers with hers. The huntsman grips her shoulder. I'm done here. Let's go. The trio makes their way out of the ballroom. The stunned guests watch them go silently. The captain of the guard stands by the ballroom doors. He pulls it open to allow them to pass, his head bowing slightly. Your Highness. Tabitha returns the gesture. He closes the doors after them. You know, the dress looks nice, but it really isn't that practical, Tabitha says. She shifts back into her white tunic and sighs. It's silly, but even though I was forced into that Sleeping Beauty tale, I thought that since we defeated the dragon, somehow everything would work out here. Too much went wrong, I suppose. If everything went perfectly, it wouldn't be much of a story, Wildrose smiles. Tabitha chuckles. I suppose you're right. When you decided to come back here, I thought you might stay, the huntsman says. I don't know if I could, even if my mother... Tabitha shakes her head. Tears leak from her eyes, but she pushes them away. She doesn't even love me, so why am I so upset? Because that's part of who you are, Wildrose touches her cheek gently. Was she telling the truth in there, when she said she had done all of this for me? Wildrose hesitates. Yes, but you have to remember that I can only see whether a person believes what they're saying to be true. People can convince themselves of anything given the right circumstances and enough time. Tabitha nods. Well, I choose to be a storyteller, and we have a role to play. And they lived happily ever after. Tabitha frowns as she feels the end of a tale settle around her.